Are you going to close the debate?
No. Well,
I'm actually going to put the amendment in a minute.
Okay. I had a question around Councillor East's amendment. That's all in terms of staff and the implications of it.
And the cost, maybe?
And, no, it's particularly around the safety.
Okay, right.
And the question
Dangerous precedent. Okay, go for it.
Well, look, no, I think it's important if people are voting on something we know about the safety issues. And I want to ask the staff, and probably Tim in particular, in your professional experience with what Councillor East has put forward, and it seems to me it's pretty much based on what our attachments on page 262, would this concept pass any safety audit?
Unfortunately, I believe it wouldn't. I'll say that on a number of grounds. There are crime prevention issues which Sue Ramsey is independently reviewed, Councillor East not plans for us. And Sue makes a number of points that we can share her there are one or two. Sorry, apologies. There are one or two fundamental problems with Councillor East's alternative, as I would see them, and we have not had this independently safety audited as a proposal. So I make these points from that point of view. The first and foremost problem is that what we're actually would be expecting passengers to do would be to cross a traffic stream to get to the bus stop.
With
to
due
get
respect,
to the,
I said it was at a pedestrianised crossing, both ends.
Yes, but the issue there is it is a combination of actually getting to that island in a controlled and easy way, and so one of our concerns about that is how pedestrians would actually get to that. I have a number of problems in terms of the overall layout of the corridor that would arise from this. Is that if you put a pedestrian island of that sort in the middle of the corridor as a platform promontory like that, I do have worries about a degree of risky pedestrian crossing behaviour that this may well generate. You are actually widening the carriageway there quite significantly from the proposal as stands. The proposal as stands is for about a 2-lane wide crossing of Manchester Street at that point. I think from Councillor East's proposal in front of you now, the 2-lane wide crossing, effectively with the addition of the island there, becomes really you're crossing 4 lanes of traffic at that point. And so the proposal as was for a Barnes dance there, which would have crossed pedestrians over the street there. One other problem with this is if you're a pedestrian crossing the road there, normally when you've got a refuge island in the middle of the road, in the middle of a 2-way road, you cross traffic in one direction, you expect them to come at you from the right. Then you cross over the island and you're expecting them to come at you from the left. Here you have the island asymmetric to the corridor, and so you're actually crossing into the road, seeing traffic coming at you from the south, from the right-hand side. You then have the island there, but then you're crossing beyond it. There are buses coming at you from the south, and then suddenly there's a vehicle lane on the opposite side that is in the opposite direction. And so I think Stefan may be able to add to this in terms of some of the problems Wellington have had with Manners Mall.
Excuse me, it's a pedestrian crossing.
Oh, just on that point, I mean, that's part of the, as Tim alluded to, part of the issues I've had around Manners Mall and Wellington is around vehicles moving close to curbs in directions that aren't expected. And part of the issue there is also around the ability to take evasive action when people do step out. Generally what they've found is that people generally walk up to the curb and take a step off before they look. They've done a lot of video footage to understand the behaviour of people, and what they find is people are used to being able to walk onto the road and have a sort of buffer zone to be able to see, and what they're doing is stepping through, and that's when they get hit by the stuff. So that's something really sad.
Buses, terrifying. Andrew? Andrews has a question, then I want to speak on the debate. Are yours questions? Right, okay.
Mine are questions that probably others are thinking of as well, and I perhaps thought that Phil might have asked this one, but the cost of the proposal as put forward by Councillor East. We've had a number of speakers have talked about investigating that proposal, and I'm keen to know how long those investigations would take. And then whether the outcome of those investigations would in fact require further public consultation, and what the overall time of the investigation and any subsequent consultation would be. So cost and time taken to deliver what Councillor East is putting forward.
It would be pure speculation, I think, as to what the change costs of the scheme would be to achieve the alternative arrangement Councillor East is proposing between Worcester and Hereford Street. Certainly in terms of consultation, I think it would be the council would be obliged to consult again over that section of the Manchester Street proposals. It does have implications in terms of achieving the continued traffic function of the street. It has implications on that eastern side footpath. It has implications on the levels of landscaping, footpath provision provided. One of the things it does have specific implications for, I think, is actually the proposal for the shared use facility for cyclists and pedestrians, which was using that wide eastern side footpath to achieve the turning movements we need into Hereford Street there. I think that 9 metre wide footpath shared cycleway there would probably reduce to in the order of 3 metres on that side there. So the shared facility and the provision for local cyclists there would disappear. We have no other reasonable provision within the corridor for cyclists at that critical point. And so I think a number of user groups would expect to be reconsulted over that. The other aspect, and it's probably more of a streetscape and environmental issue, is that, as I understand it, the east frame development of residential there has been designed with that tree-lined boulevard on that eastern side to provide that 9 metre wide buffer between residential properties and this busy bus
Thanks, Tim.
vehicle street, and so it changes the nature of the east frame development and their expectation as to what it's going to look like.
Did you have a quick question?
I just wanted to know why, with all of the reasons why this wouldn't work, does it work in Melbourne?
They have different traffic laws in Melbourne. Those are for trams. As I understand it, all traffic is obliged to stop when a tram is stationary there. Similarly to the United States, with school buses there, for instance, when a yellow bus stops, all traffic is obliged to stop. So this is different to New Zealand traffic laws, and so we are obliged to design a scheme that works with New Zealand traffic laws as they.
Just going back to this though, pedestrians, you've mentioned about this being an issue for pedestrians and encouraging dangerous behaviour. Is that what this does in Melbourne?
Yeah, they still do have issues with crashes at these locations where pedestrians are moving to those central platforms. So this is something they're trying to address as well.
And I haven't dwelt, because it's not my area of expertise, on the crime prevention issues, but Sue Ramsey is here. Sue could advise you over some of her misgivings about this in terms of the creation of this barriered island.
Okay, Pauline, did you have a question?
Yes. So the buses will then have to come from the centre back to the left-hand side of the road to carry on their journey. Do you perceive that as being a safety risk, and where and how would they do that? And what effect would that have on the traffic, the other traffic on the road?
I do. As I think I said earlier, the scheme design for Manchester Street is around simplicity, maintaining a single centre line for the corridor. So if you're a pedestrian crossing the road, it's broadly equal width throughout it, and you sort of know where the vehicles are coming at you from if you're going to cross the road there. Some of these arrangements, if we just seek to treat this block differently to the others, involve some very severe weaving manoeuvres across the Worcester Street approach from the north, which would effectively mean all traffic, buses and vehicles alike, would need to make a very severe sharp turn to the east to cross that intersection to come south there. If you were a pedestrian crossing from the East Frame residential area to get to the central city, you're stepping into a road, no traffic to your right, and then suddenly a vehicle's coming at you. So, yeah, very severe loss of alignment.
Quite a few lawsuits following. No, you don't have a right of reply and an amendment, do you? No, only a motion. Dave, did you have a question? No. Could I just speak to the original motion and the amendment? And that is to say that I will not be supporting the amendment. I think it's dangerous. I think it's actually incredibly unsafe for part of a street to have a completely counterintuitive structure, and that we would require people, in order to catch a bus, to walk across to the middle of the street and then deposit them again in the middle of the street. And I can just imagine the response from the blind community and the earthquake disabled leadership group about depositing people in a place where their first movements had to be into traffic. And I cannot imagine why we would wish to inflict that on people for a moment. I just cannot get with the concept of doing it. If you were going to do it, you would need to have access above the street into some raised platform, and we looked at that on Rickerton Road and there wasn't space. So from a safety point of view, I won't be supporting the amendment. From a cost point of view, I won't be supporting the amendment. And from a delay point of view, I certainly won't be supporting the amendment, because I would like to get to the point where, in terms of what we are doing in the central city, we have a high degree of certainty so people can get on and do the development of Shan's Emporium, of the Trinity Church, the development in the next block, and the development further east as well that's waiting to be done. All of those things need to happen, and they need to happen fast. In terms of the heritage buildings, yes, I am totally in favour of the motion that we don't have a bus shelter in front of Shan's Emporium or the Trinity Church. These are two Class 1 heritage buildings, and we shouldn't destroy the visual amenity by putting a shelter right in front of them. I appreciate that's a compromise, and I think most things in politics are, but I think it's a sensible one, and one that enables us to get this underway, get it sorted, and actually get some real benefit for people using buses as well. The idea that you have to cross in front of traffic to get to your bus shelter just defies logic, and then the bus has to immediately go back into the traffic line also just defies logic. So if we've all now spoken, what I would like to do is put the amendment first. Okay? Going back to Dave's amendment, it's seconded by, I think it was seconded by Paul actually, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, well, whoever, it doesn't really matter. Okay, can I put that? Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. I declare that lost. Does anybody want any division, or do you want a division? Okay, division is called for. Have you got equipment that works, or should we just do it by hands? Okay, if you're in favour, just raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. If you're opposed, raise your hand. More than 3. Oh, sorry. Okay, you've got all that. So 3 in favour, everyone against. Can I now put... Do you want to? Yes, okay. So East, Gough, Lonsdale in favour. Everyone else opposed? Okay. 310 opposed. Yeah. And now can I put yours, Phil? You have a right of reply if you want one. Or has he used it? Right. Okay. So your motion. So shall we put that motion first and then all of the rest of the stuff? Because there's a small war and peace of motions, actually. So we're just putting...
If Pauline Cotter had some suggestions around it's included?
Right.
Right. It's just specifying the use of the technology from the interchange, but that be used here too.
Okay, do you want to put them all together? Yeah. Okay.
You might want to take.
No, I'm happy to take your advice. So these motions are moved by Councillor Clearwater and seconded by Councillor Manji,
No, sorry, down.
and they go on for 100
I'm
pages.
just showing, no, scroll down. I just want to show the one that I wrote. CA. We've just, because there are 592 substantive amendments in terms of the meterage, we've checked with staff, and so this one is just giving staff the authority as a result if you pass C, so that you don't have to go through the 592 amendments now. So staff will just give effect to that.
Give effect like that, or with an E?
Effect.
Okay, right, so moved, Phil? What? The one about the measuring the metres? No, let's put them all together. Okay, so moved, Phil, seconded, Raf. I'll put those millions, okay? Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. So, carried? Yes. Right, okay. Does anybody want anything recorded? Dave wants his name recorded against. Right, okay. And is that the lot? Yeah. That's the infrastructure thing? No, I know there's more stuff, but it's the whole accessible.
That's all the accessible city one.
Right. Right.
And then we're 288.
And Yanni would like his vote recorded against it as well. So this was part A. This was the report of the chairperson. And then have you got more, Phil?
Just in wrapping up that item, clearly with a record number of resolutions, this has been an enormous amount of work for staff, including the excellent consultation. It's been a real team effort. And I appreciate the work that the collaborative efforts from Sarah too. And so I just particularly want to thank all the staff. This has been a huge undertaking, and I think this is a good result. Thank you so much for your very hard work.
You can move on to something else now. You'll be so pleased. Okay, roading designations for the Christchurch City Plan, page 288, and infrastructure, transport and environment. Okay. Phil, you move? Yep, Pauline seconds. Put that. Those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, carried. There was one other item in the supplementary, and that's the Arts Centre. That's the only one that we haven't yet done in public. Okay.